Well, welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Tony G. Alvarado. I'm so excited to have you here with us as we close out Women's History Month. We have had a wonderful array of women who have come on our podcast this month to help us celebrate in two ways. We have been celebrating Women's History Month. The month of March is Women's History Month. And we have been celebrating the accomplishments and history of women, particularly women of color. And we have been celebrating the second year anniversary of the Harmonize Your Life podcast. Yes, we have been facilitating and hosting this podcast for 2 full years. We have just had dynamic women and a few good men join us on this podcast since 2020, since March 2nd, 2020. We have been facilitating these conversations on self-care, health, wellness, mental health, fitness, relationships, finances, you name it, grief, recovery, domestic violence, all the things that touch us in our lives. We've even had conversations around COVID-19 and vaccines and pandemic PTSD. We have just run the gamut on this podcast. And I am so delighted that you have been hanging with us over these past 2 years. You have been listening. You have been subscribing to my YouTube channel, subscribing to this podcast and sharing it with your friends, with your sisters, your neighbors, and just coming into these dialogues with us. And we pray that these dialogues have been a blessing in your life and that it is helping you to live a lifestyle of health and wellness and harmonious lifestyles of self-care. So today we have another intriguing conversation that we're going to bring to you today as we close out the March 2022, as we close out season 6 of the Harmonize Your Life podcast, as we launch into year 3 of the Harmonize Your Life podcast. And I know that you are going to be blessed by our conversationalists on today. All right. So we'll be right back in just a moment, and we'll get ready for another intriguing podcast conversation. Well, thank you again for being here with us. And I want to introduce our guest, our special guest on today. Tamiya King-Troutman is a certified certified health coach, certified medical assistant, and professional writer. She has a bachelor's in English from Oakwood University and is currently pursuing an MBA in health systems management from Kessler University. She has been writing for 11 years and has published works in publications such as Atlanta Black Star, Madame Noire, and Houston Chronicle. After receiving her health coaching certification from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in 2019, Tamiya started her meal delivery service. I love the name of it, Cool Pink Health and Wellness. She has provided private coaching services for clients and catered events focused on improving women's health. Tamiya currently lives in Smyrna, Georgia, with her husband, Artemis, and their children, Artemis II and Araya. I am so glad to bring her into our conversations on today, our podcast studio on today. Will you help me welcome Tamiya King, the progenitor of the Cool Pink Health and Wellness and Meal Delivery service. Welcome, Tamiya, to the Harmonize Your Life podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so glad. So, Tamiya, we have a mutual friend and sister, self care sister, um, Felicia Reddy.
Yes, that's my girl.
Yes. So, Felicia Reddy is a part of the Self Care Network. She is a member of the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self Care Network that we began in 2020. She has appeared on the podcast last year and this year. She came into the podcast studio and talked to us. She has her own wellness service as well.
Right.
We're excited about her wellness service and the services that she provides with the herbal teas and the oils and all the things that she does with Destination um,
Yes.
Wellness. And so I am so grateful when she told me about you, and she was like, "Listen, you've got to get Maya on the podcast. You got to get her." And so we finally worked it out, and
Yes.
you're here.
Yes. And I'm so glad to be. She's had nothing but good things to say about you. She told me, she said, you got to get on Dr. Tony's podcast. It's a great way for you to let people know what you got going on. And she is a regular customer of mine, and I am of hers. So I am just so excited that she, connected us and brought us together.
Yeah, I love that too. And we're all working in this space. I love the this space that we're in, that we're working
Yes.
in, health and wellness. My principal work is pastor. Felicia is actually a member of my church. She's been a spiritual daughter of mine for well over 15 years. That she's been a member of our local church, and now her daughter. So now
Yes. Baby
actually
Leia.
pastoring her baby and her.
Yes.
It's a blessing to be able to see transgenerational ministry. Bishop Alvarado and I are now pastoring the children and grandchildren of some of our
Yes.
members, and that's just such a blessing. So, my principal work is that of ministry as a pastor, a preacher, pastoral theologian, and I became interested in this whole self care journey, health and wellness, several years ago through my own experiences, through my own life. I've been on this journey now for 22 years on what I
Wow.
call the self care journey.
Yeah.
For 22 years, I have been on this journey, wrote my book on self care, Harmonize Your Life, A Journey Towards Self Care, wrote that in 2018. I've hosted a self care retreat for women. The Harmonize Your Life Women's Self Care Retreat. We just hosted our fifth retreat in Aruba, and I'm excited to say we're going back
Oh,
to Aruba
wow.
in January 2023. And so you need to come on and go with us to Aruba and be a part of what we're doing
Yes, I
there.
would love to go.
Yes, come on, come on.
Yeah.
January, let me put that on the on the screen for those that are on YouTube watching us and those that are listening. January 5th through the 9th. We're going to Aruba with the women's self-care retreat. We'll be there in Aruba in January 2023. Again in Aruba. We was just there in January 20 of this year, 2022. And so I've been on this journey for a number of years. And so when we started the podcast in 2020, we started the podcast. Little did we know that we would be in a global pandemic
Yeah.
and that these conversations would be so necessary
Yes.
to our everyday life. I mean, who would have thought that we would have had to shelter in, um, all of our malls emptied, our jobs, everybody working from home, those that could afford to work from home, everybody
Right.
was not privileged to shelter in.
Right.
And then the most traumatic of things was losing family members and friends to COVID-19,
Absolutely.
um, not being able to be in the hospital with our loved ones dying without us being able to be at their bedside,
Yeah.
not being able to do funerals the way we normally would, or our festivals, graduations, children having to come out of school. I remember my daughter had to vacate her dorm at Spelman College and come home and finish her senior year at home online. How traumatic that was for she and her classmates, and
Mm-hmm.
not just her, but students all over this country and the world.
Yeah.
And so we found ourselves in a global pandemic where health and wellness was right at the center of our everyday existence. It probably should have been there before. Maybe we wouldn't have been
Right.
in the pandemic.
Right.
However, we found ourselves there. And over 7,000 or more of our countrymen and women did we lose to COVID-19.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just un, is it, and I may even have that number wrong. I'm saying 7,000. I mean, the numbers were going up and up and up, and the traumatic, the traumatic um, thing that we experience in our nation as a result of this pandemic. And so I'm so grateful that God positioned me to be able to do this podcast in this season, because I have found it to be not only life-giving for me, but for all those who have tapped in.
Yeah.
And so we've been having these conversations with women like yourself who are doing this work, what I call healing work, what I call self-care work, health and wellness work, um, mental health professionals, medical doctors and nurses, teachers, pastors, nutritionists, dietitians, fitness professionals, all of us having these dialogues and educating, um, inspiring and motivating our people to be more healthy, to
Yeah.
live healthier lives, to eat healthy, to exercise, to take care of ourselves. And so when I read about you and what you were doing, I was like, oh yes, she has to come. You have to be a part of these conversations. And so just share with us a little bit about you and your journey and into self-care, health and wellness. What brought you into this space?
Well, Dr. Tony, like you, I had some personal health issues that kind of led me to research more and kind of figure out what was going on with my body and why it was going on and what I could do to fix it. I've pretty much had allergies and like sinus issues my entire life. And I thought that it was just seasonal allergies, like, oh, springtime is coming or the weather is changing. I'm going to have to get some Claritin or get some Zyrtec. But then I kind of found out that, oh, even when the seasons are not changing, I'm still sometimes having these allergic reactions to things, which kind of led me to pay attention to what am I putting on my body? What am I eating? What type of environments am I in? Is the air clean where I am? And so those things kind of made me pay more attention to my surroundings and
Mhm.
kind of keep a journal or keep a ledger of when do I feel my best? And if I do start to experience symptoms, what have I just eaten, or what places have I gone, or what cosmetics have I used that are leading to these symptoms? And so that led me to kind of realize that I was having some hormonal imbalance issues. I would see that the closer I got to my cycle, the worse my allergy symptoms would be.
Okay.
And so I started observing that. And when I saw that it was kind of a monthly thing, I was like, okay, there's something going on with my hormones that are working against my body and making it seem like I have an allergy when really it's an intolerance. And so then that kind of led me to, well, what am I eating that might be causing these same symptoms, which made me connect like some foods affect your hormones directly.
Mhm.
And so let's get that in balance and see if that will help with some of the other symptoms that come along with our cycles. We know, like the bloating, the mood swings, the tiredness, the
Yeah.
fatigue. Some of us get really bad headaches, migraines.
Yeah.
The cramps are a little bit too much to handle sometimes. And all of that can be controlled and corrected by our lifestyle choices leading up into that cycle. Because a lot of times we don't think about the fact that that 3 to 5 days or sometimes 7 days where we're actually on our cycle, that's just one part of the cycle. The cycle is continuing all throughout the month. And so during ovulation, during, the our first part of fertilization, all of those things are part of our cycle. And if we can get them in balance
Yeah.
by what we eat and kind of the things that we do and even our activity levels, some of those
Yeah.
symptoms that happen can be greatly reduced. And so that kind of led me to figure that I'm probably not the only person going through this. So
Yeah.
let me get some formal training so that I can try to help other people who may be experiencing similar symptoms. I've been to the
Yeah.
doctor several times where they'll say that I'm healthy and everything's
Yeah.
fine. And
Yeah.
I'll tell them about a certain herb that I'm using, and they're like, oh, but what is that? Like, what does it do for you? Like, let me try
Okay.
that too.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that led me to let me get certified so I can start helping other people with this too.
Yeah, I love that. And it seems that I know for me, it was that crisis moment in my life with my health that led me down this path and wanting to do more, really just to help myself. But then I realized
Right.
that, you know, if I was going, what good is it for me to be healthy and be connected to an unhealthy community, right? So
Exactly.
I was like, well, part of my call is to educate and to empower and to enlighten people, you know, connect people to God, their purpose and all that. Well, God doesn't want us to be broke down. God doesn't want us to be
Exactly.
unhealthy. And so how can I be my best me? How can I take care of the gift that God has given me in my life, in my body, and the
Right.
things that I can do? And of course, if there's something beyond my control, then then I go to God for help, or I get help. But there are things that are just very much in our control. And so, like you, I went on a journey of trying to see, okay, why am I feeling the way I feel? Had found out that I had a hypothyroid condition. It was stress related. It was induced by stress. And so um it helped me to just kind of step back and reevaluate how I was doing life.
Right.
Because sometimes we let life do us rather than us do life,
Exactly.
right? So this month, Tamaya, we are celebrating Women's History Month. This is the month of March,
Mm-hmm.
and you are bringing up the rear. Thank you. We've had some wonderful dialogues
Yes.
around women created to thrive. The theme for this month was created to thrive, and I'm shamelessly plugging a book in which I have an article in the book Created to Thrive. It is on Amazon. I wrote a chapter in this book, and this book is really for faith-based leaders,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's cultivating abuse-free faith communities. Created to Thrive, cultivating abuse-free uh, faith community,
I love
abuse-free
that.
faith communities. And so I wrote a chapter in that book. And so I'm encouraging those of you that are listening and watching to go get the book. And we kicked off the month with my friend Dr. Jean Porter King, who was the one who actually brought me into the writing project. And so in our discussions, we talked about breaking barriers for women.
Mm-hmm.
She actually talks about that in her chapter of the book, Created to Thrive book. Dr. Jean Porter King writes about personal barriers and things, societal barriers and things that women that have been set up for women. And
Right.
so if we're going to thrive, we have to break down those barriers, is her thesis. And we have to address those barriers and be honest about what those barriers are and how do we overcome those particular barriers for women. And so I took that thought and was like, you know what, let's talk about this on the podcast this week, promote the book, but let's talk about it in our podcast this month. And so each week we've talked about breaking barriers for women. We talked about breaking personal barriers. We talked with Catherine Stanley. We talked about breaking career and ministerial barriers with Freedom McCullough. And now we're going to be talking about creating nutritional barriers with you, right?
Right.
Creating nutritional barriers. Now, one of the things that Catherine Stanley talked about when she was on with me was she talked about as a Black woman, one of the things that we've always been celebrated for is our foods
Right.
and how
Yes.
we cook, right? And if we couldn't get praise for anything else, we got praise for our meals and the way we would cook.
Absolutely.
So when you deal with in your service Cool Pink Health and Wellness, I went on your website, and one of the things you talked about was how to create meals that are healthy,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't sacrifice the flavors and the tastes that we as African American women are used to, or that our
Right.
families are used to. So
Right.
I want you to talk to us about the whole Cool Pink Health and Wellness Consulting and your whole idea around our foods, and why our healthy foods, and how do we create those healthy foods in a way that doesn't sacrifice who we are in our
Right.
culture, yet we're not eating foods that kill us
Right.
as
That's
women.
very important. Well, I got the name Cool Pink comes from the fact that pink is a warm color, but when it's cool, it looks good on everybody. So
Okay.
there's a way to customize what you're eating for your body, for what your health issues are, for what you're trying to reverse or fix or maintain in your own body.
Okay.
And we know that as women, we're very complex in just about every way. And so the health issues that one woman is experiencing may not be, an issue for another woman. So when I consult with people, I'm kind of looking for, what are your goals? What are your health goals? What are you looking to achieve? Is there some health issue that you're looking to get ahead of, or something that you want to prevent? Something that runs in your family that you want to prevent, or are you already experiencing health issues that you want to reverse? And so I know that when it comes to cooking, cooking is such a special thing for Black people. It means so much to us. There's a lot of sentimental value in the dishes that we prepare.
Yeah.
Like you said, where a lot of women, where we couldn't get appreciation or accolades anywhere else, we could get it in the kitchen.
Right.
So we made sure that we included all the flavors and all of the fats and all of the sugar and, all of the things that we needed to make things taste as great as they can taste, because we knew that that was not only where we could get recognition, but was also a way to show love to the people that
Right.
we care about the most.
Exactly.
Food is associated with gathering after church to eat with family. It's associated with when someone passes away, we bring them something to eat to comfort them. When there's a party or celebration, when someone graduates, when someone gets married, we bring food. And
It's
so a
food is
lot of our,
our life.
yeah, the
Yeah.
things that mean the most to us are surrounded by something to eat in most cases. So I kind of encourage people to have fun with it and just kind of experiment. There's going to be, I know a lot of us are used to cooking with certain ingredients that may not always be healthy. A lot of us were used to cooking with certain shortenings and fats and different types of meat. And so when you get a little bit older, you want to be more conscious of your health. You kind of don't know where to start sometimes, because you're like, well, my grandma cooked with this, or my mom cooked with this, so this
Mm-hmm.
is really all I know.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to experiment and kind of, see how you like certain flavors. I tell people all the time when I'm consulting with them, people don't eat fat back and collard greens with the, smoked meat in them and macaroni and cheese. They don't eat that stuff because they want to be unhealthy or because they're looking for a way to be destructive physically. They eat it because it's delicious. They
Right.
eat it
Right.
because it's good. So if
Because
you
it
can,
tastes good.
right, they eat it because they like it.
And then
So
sometimes they eat it because that's what grandmama cooked. And
right, and that's what they
it's got
know.
sentimental value to it. It's,
Right,
you know,
right,
historical value
right.
to it, right? Mhm.
Right. That's what they know and that's what they're
It's
familiar
our
with.
tradition. It's our history.
Right. And they associate that with being part of a family, part of a tribe, part of a culture. Like if I'm going to be a member of this culture, this is what we do. So I have to learn how to do that and kind of assimilate in. But we are, we know by now we are a very diverse people, even within our
With it.
collectivity. Even, we do a lot of different things. We have a lot of different interests. And
Mhm.
so we can bring that to the table literally with the way that we prepare our food. I think being more adventurous definitely helps with getting us to kind of try new things and kind of see, okay, well, actually, I've been eating this food for years, but it doesn't agree with my body. But because this is what was given to me, or these are the options that were presented to me, I didn't put it together that every time I eat this, this happens to me. So maybe I should avoid that and switch it out for something else, like with grains and wheat and things like that. In a lot of traditional African diets, wheat is not a part um, of the food plan. And while African Americans are about 12% of the US population, the percentage of us who have celiac disease or gluten intolerance is
Wait a minute, you
1%.
said something. Don't rush past that. You said as African, say that again about wheat and African
A
tradition.
lot of the traditional African diets in various parts of the continent, wheat, especially wheat as we know it here in the U.S., is not included in the diet plan. They
Uh-huh.
have other grains, rice, of course, amaranth, teff, which is a gluten-free grain that's used to make flatbread with Ethiopian cuisine. So
Okay.
they have grains, but the refined wheat that we are used to here in the States, that's not really a part of the traditional
Wow.
African diet.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay, go
Yeah.
on. Go on. I never heard that before. And
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
then you were
So
saying about the gluten and how that impacts us.
right. And so that's why when we eat foods that are very heavy in gluten, especially the processed foods, we may have reactions that we would not otherwise have if we were eating literally according to our DNA. While we make up about 12% of the US population, about 1% of us has celiac disease or gluten intolerance. And while that seems like a really small percentage, if we're only about 12.7 about now of the population, if
Okay.
1% of us of the out of that 12%
Hmm.
has celiac disease, that's a pretty significant number. And
Yeah.
so we have to kind of look at that and revamp some things, that can help with digestion issues. It helps with hormonal imbalance, unwanted weight gain, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all that, those sorts of things. Those conditions can be managed and sometimes reversed in some cases, depending on the severity of the condition, simply by taking
Gluten.
processed food and wheat and gluten out of our diets.
So how would someone find out? You said something earlier that sometimes we have we think we have an allergy, but it's
Hmm.
really an intolerance.
Right.
What's the difference between an intolerance and an allergy?
Well, with an allergy, your histamine receptors, when you consume a certain food, like when someone has like a shellfish allergy or a peanut allergy,
Mhm.
they cannot, some people, their allergy is so severe, they can't even be around that food without having a reaction. So the
Okay,
histamine receptors in their body basically attack them, and it's like an autoimmune response. So they're like, no, this is a foreign object, is a dangerous object.
okay,
You can't be exposed to this. When
okay,
you have an intolerance to something, your body has a threshold for it, but your threshold for it is not as high as a person who does not have an intolerance. So
okay.
you may, if you have a gluten intolerance, you may be able to eat a little bread or a little pasta, but at some point your body is going to react to it. Whereas somebody who doesn't have an intolerance, they can eat it with no problem.
Wow, 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 wow. And it's interesting because sometimes some foods we do. Would you agree that some foods we develop an intolerance to over time as
Yes.
we age? Like I mean, there's just things that I used to be able to eat that I used to eat 20 years ago or 10 years ago or maybe even
Hmm.
a couple of years ago that now I find an intolerance. I love peanut butter, right? I love peanut butter. And I was thinking I was doing a great thing by slapping all this peanut butter on my plate and eating it with apples. And I'm thinking,
Right.
oh, I'm eating a healthy snack because I got peanut butter and apples, right?
Exactly.
Right. And I'm
Hmm.
not eating chocolate, but I'm eating peanut butter. And I started noticing that I would every time I would eat it, I would bloat,
Hmm.
right? And but in my mind at first, I'm like, well, it can't be the peanut butter and apples because that's a healthy snack.
Right.
One day it dawned on me, eat the apples without the peanut butter. And then I noticed that when I didn't eat it with peanut butter, I didn't bloat.
You were fine. Hmm.
And I used to be able to do it, but now I notice if I do, and I may be able to eat a little peanut butter every now and then, but if I overdo it with it,
Right.
I definitely I can't I so is that what you were saying intolerance?
Yes, that's sometimes you'll have an intolerance to a food that you may have been exposed to, for decades of your life. And then you get to a certain age and you're like, oh, I can't really eat that like I used to. Like some people, they really like spicy food. And then they get to a point where they're like, my body doesn't really agree with that anymore.
Yeah.
So sometimes an intolerance can come with age, but there are things that we are intolerant to Sometimes it's genetic, sometimes
Okay.
it's because of ethnicity. Sometimes, men are more tolerant to certain foods than women are,
Okay.
so it really just depends, and you have to really pay a lot of attention to your body. And I think a lot of times in mainstream society, you're not encouraged to really tune in to how food makes you
There it is.
feel.
You said pay attention to your body. If you're taking notes, write it down. One of the ways to
Right,
overcome nutritional barriers is paying attention to your body. And
that's
then you
right.
said something about we're not we've not been taught how to tap into how foods are making us feel.
Right. We're just taught there's dinner on the table, clean your plate, or this is what we're having for breakfast, or this is what's available in the grocery store. We're not taught, like, after I consume a meal, let me pay attention to how this food is making me feel. Do I feel nourished? Do I feel tired? Do I suddenly feel a little bit more irritable and angry than I did before I ate? We don't pay attention to how food is making us feel. And I think if we make those connections, we'll start to see, like, well, when I eat this, I about 20 minutes later, I usually don't feel so good. Or if I eat this, it makes me tired and I need all my energy for the day. So if we start paying attention to the way our body reacts to certain foods, we can kind of customize a diet that will work well for us and for what our health goals are.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This is very enlightening. I love it. We've done episodes. We did I sit on the national board, faith-based board for FAIR, which is Food Allergy Research and Education,
Mm-hmm.
organization that deals with food allergies. And I was asked to sit on their national faith council to kind of help bring these conversations to the faith communities. And so we've had Anita Roach, who is the VP for their community outreach, on the podcast, and we talked about food allergies and things of that nature with her. But here, with you, I feel like we're drilling down a little bit, because sometimes it's not, like you said, it's not an allergy, but it could be an intolerance
Right.
or something. And related to our age, related to our gender, related to genetics.
Right.
Okay. So I may not die if I eat this food, which is what
Right.
ultimately a food allergy could lead to death.
Exactly.
And so we don't want that. But at the same time, I could be just developing an intolerance, or it could be altering my mood. It could be altering my energy level. It could be,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, if it's altering everything, to me has a domino effect.
Exactly.
So if my mood is bad and my energy is low, then it could impact my work performance. It could impact my relationships with my spouse, my children,
Exactly.
all of it. It's all connected. That's what that, to me, that holistic, harmonious harmony life
Right.
is about. How does this impact this? And if I eat this, how does this impact my rest,
Right.
energy, my relationships? All of those things are so
Right.
important. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all a domino effect. And the more we eat certain foods, the more we put ourselves in a category to be more prone to certain conditions. Like eating a lot of processed food, we've seen, that diabetes is becoming more of
Mhm.
a huge health concern, not just in the Black community, but in the US at large. And because a lot of the foods are processed, they do have sugar in them to preserve them. And about a little over 11% of people, of African Americans, and when I say African Americans, I mean Black people living in America, they may come from various parts of the diaspora,
Okay.
but about 11.7% of
People
African Americans have diabetes, either type 1 or type 2. But again, we're about 12% of the population. So that's like every second or third person has some type of blood sugar issue going on. And sometimes that is genetic, sometimes it is hereditary, but sometimes it is diet related. And we can reverse that by what we're eating, or what we're choosing not to eat, and by not being so lethargic and making sure we're active. And, so there are things that we can
and
do.
drinking our water and all that.
Yes. And staying hydrated. Yes.
Yeah. You know, um, I went last year in 2021. I studied with the American Fitness Professionals Association, and I got a certificate in health and wellness coaching. I'm already a certified coach and coach trainer, but I went back and picked up a certification in health and wellness coaching. And in my studying with them, reading statistics from the World Health Organization and other organizations, it was very enlightening for me. I felt like if I was going to do a podcast like this, I really should know more and be able to converse on that level. Um, but one of the things that early on in the training, in the study of the training for the health and wellness coaching, was we read statistics from the World Health Organization, and the World Health Organization suggests that um, most of the diseases that we experience in the US, particularly, are related to lifestyle. They are
Yes.
lifestyle diseases,
Hmm.
and they are mainly related to our diet, lack of exercise, our water intake, and rest.
Yes.
So I tell people, if you eat healthy, if you move your body, you eat healthy, you move your body, you rest and drink water, it will handle most of our health and wellness. It will improve our health and wellness 100%.
Right.
I mean, just that.
Yeah.
So most of it is lifestyle diseases, and like you just said, they can be reversed by what we eat
Right. Exactly.
or what we don't eat.
Right, or what we avoid eating, yes. And physical activity is definitely an important part of that as well. I think people kind of underestimate the importance of water, like you said, drinking water often and staying hydrated. That alone can help flush out some of the impurities and toxins in the body. It can help with mental clarity. Drinking a cup or two of lemon water in the morning can make it easier for your body to metabolize the food you eat and to burn fat throughout the day. So just those little simple steps you can take to, make sure that you're kind of making your health a priority. I think a lot of times we live in such a fast
Make
paced
your health a priority.
lifestyle and we're so busy. And even with the pandemic, now we've had to switch and the kids are at home now going to school instead of in
Yeah.
the classroom. So,
Mhm, mhm.
that's an extra task that we have to take care of throughout the day. Then many of us are working from home. And then for those who are not working from home, there's an extra layer of stress there because you still have to go to work, but you're trying to stay safe. So we live a very busy lifestyle, and over productivity is definitely encouraged in Western society, like to always be moving, to always be working
We
and
do
running.
not rest.
Yeah, we don't rest the way that we should. And when you don't have time to even catch your breath and sit and think and meditate and just clear your mind and think about
Now.
what do I need to be doing, and is
Mhm.
this really important right now? Can I take a moment to just rest and reflect? When you don't have time for that, stress is bound to start overtaking and you'll make decisions out of stress and need, and I got to hurry up and get this done, other than is this really the best decision? Like you'll get processed food, we'll go through the drive-through because the kids got to eat, as opposed to sitting and thinking, is this really what's best for us, and what can I prepare that would be a better alternative? We don't have the time to think about that because we're encouraged to just keep going, going, going.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to us about our foods and um you in your as we've already said, there are foods that we enjoy as African American women, as people of color, and
Right.
we enjoy these foods, but sometimes they're not the best in terms of health.
Right.
But they taste good. So
Right.
So, how can we be
Yeah.
creative in the kitchen? We're talking about being creative to thrive and overcoming nutritional barriers. One of the nutritional barriers that we have to overcome is the idea of cooking foods that taste good to us
Right.
and that may taste good to our family and friends and all of that.
Right.
So, how do we cook healthier without losing the flavors that we've come accustomed to or the tastes that we enjoy?
Well, a lot of times you can kind of look at the base of how a dish is seasoned, and then try to swap if there are any meat ingredients or high fat ingredients in the base of how to season the dish, then you can experiment with that and swap it out for something that is either vegan, vegetarian, or low in fat. A lot of times with our meat and our greens and things like that, we season it with broth or bouillon. You can do that with the vegan version of those products. If you want to have a smokier flavor or make your greens taste like they have smoked turkey or fat back in them, some smoked sun-dried tomatoes will help. It makes it taste like it's meat.
Okay.
Um, so I've tricked a lot of people with that before.
So you said smoked sun-dried tomatoes with
Yes.
the same flavor as the smoked meat.
It kind of tastes like smoked turkey, like when you
Okay.
prepare the oil to make the greens, or you not just with greens, you can do this with any vegetable too. When
Okay.
you
Okay.
prepare the oil to
Okay.
make the vegetables, and you put in garlic or herbs or whatever type of seasoning you like, just
Okay.
chop a few of the tomatoes in and mix them in with the oil and let them cook in the oil. You can take them out before you put the vegetables in, or you can leave them in if you want. But that flavor combination it gives it the taste that we're looking for. Like Black people tend to like foods that are not overly salty, but we like a lot of flavor. So that means that there's like a layer of flavor. Like it can be smoky, it can be a little seasoned, it can be a tad bit sweet, herbaceous. We want a combination of those flavors in our food. So we have to use a lot of times we can just use herbs and things from the earth, to season that, because we have to think about the fact that when we're seasoning meat, we're using vegetables and herbs to season the meat.
Okay.
That's what gives it the flavor that we want. That's what gives it the taste that we're looking for. So if we use that same principle and take the meat out to season the vegetables, and we just use everything all natural, we can kind of get the taste we're looking for, but it takes a little bit of experimentation. So it's important to have fun in the kitchen and to just, try some things out.
Okay. Okay. So do you do cooking classes, Tamaya?
Yes, I do some virtual online classes from time to time. I also do health consulting. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do one-on-one with people most of the time, but in most cases, I do have to say, when I do one-on-one consulting with clients, they kind of just want me to make the food for them. Like even after we have a cooking class of some sort, they'll say, "Well, can you just make this for me? This is what I would like for the week. Can
So
you just
that's
make
where
this
the
for
is
me?"
this where the meal delivery service came in, because
Yes.
it's Cool Pink. Let me put it on the screen. It's Cool Pink Health and Wellness Consulting and Meal Delivery Program,
Yes.
right? Okay. So you actually do a meal where you bring the meals to your clients?
Yes, they'll tell me what they want for the week, or whether or not they want a snack for that week, or if they just want breakfast, or if they just want dinner. Like we'll kind of work out what it is that they need based on their schedule. Like if they're busy and they don't have time to cook at night, then we'll just do dinners for that week. If they're in a rush in the morning, usually we'll do breakfast for that week. So after we figure out what it is that they need, we'll set up a delivery day. I'll bring the food to them, and many times we'll do another consultation session once I deliver the food, and I'll show them, well, this is what you eat with this, and I'll kind of show them what we have. And then they'll say like, okay, well, I'm really working on trying to lower my blood pressure, or I want to lower my blood sugar, or so we'll have another consultation then, so I can kind of show them the best times of day to prepare the food. And then we kind of go from there. I know you see my little one in the
It's okay.
background.
This is real life. Hey, sweetheart.
Thank you, baby.
Hey. Oh, she's adorable. Hey.
Mommy's almost done, okay?
Okay, mommy.
Okay.
What's her name?
That's Araya. That's my daughter.
Okay. She is gorgeous. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Listen, my son said, Mom, people want to see your real life on these podcasts. So
Right.
sometimes, girl, my dog barks, my phone rings,
Yeah.
I'm in the room.
She
And I'm
did. She did good. She
like,
gave
I'm
me.
trying
She
to do
gave
a
me 30 minutes, and then she was like, "Mommy, you're taking too long."
I understand. I understand. I understand. I love that. So this is really good. I mean, so for those, this podcast is going out. It's on YouTube and it's available. We're on Spotify, Google, Anchor. So there'll be people listening and watching this podcast. And once it's out there, it's out there. And a lot of our listeners go back and listen. They take notes. They share it. So everybody may not be in, because you're in Smyrna, Georgia. Everybody may not be that's listening.
Right.
Everyone will not be in Georgia that's listening.
Right.
So what kind of things can you offer? Do you offer? I heard you say something about cooking classes virtually.
Yes, I'm doing virtual cooking classes. I also have a couple of clients who don't live in state, and so depending on what they order, I'm able to ship it to them.
Okay.
I have a couple of clients who live in various places, Alabama, New York. So I'll ship it to them, and we'll do the consultation online virtually, so they can tell me what their health goals are for the week or for the month, and then we'll create a meal plan based on that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I'm definitely going to sign up for your service because I want to have you cook some things for me. And I
Oh,
want you to
good.
tell me how to cook some of them. I'm
Yeah.
learning how to do, different things. I'm not necessarily interested in becoming vegan, but
Mm-hmm.
I tend to eat, I don't eat red meat. I have not eaten red meat in over 20 years.
Okay.
I only drink water and herbal tea. And I tend to eat vegetables and fruit more than anything. My
Okay.
diet is predominantly vegetables and fruit and water and herbal tea. I drink a cup of herbal tea every day. Sometimes twice a day. I may drink a cup in the morning and a cup in the evening to relax. And I just released my tea, the Harmony tea blend, and
Yes.
yes, the Harmony tea blend. I just released that in February. Yeah, in February, I released a Harmony tea blend. It's a herbal tea blend, and it really helps you relax. So, but yeah, so I'm definitely gonna reach out to you because I
Yes.
want to be able to cook like this. Like today, I had for lunch today. I had a head of cauliflower. I go to this one restaurant and they make cauliflower tacos and I love it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
my community. I love their cauliflower tacos. So so about a month ago, I bought a head of cauliflower and I usually prepare it different ways. And I was like, let me make some cauliflower tacos myself. So I
Right.
did it. I breaded the cauliflower and I
Mm-hmm.
fried it in olive oil, and then I made the garnish just like a regular taco, but instead
Right.
of meat, it was cauliflower.
Mm-hmm.
And so today I had cauliflower and squash and zucchini, and I put it on a flatbed, put a little seasoning on it, and then I broiled it in the oven and made it really
There
crispy.
you go.
And that was my lunch, and it
There
was
you
very,
go.
very satisfying.
Yeah.
I
See,
put some slap your
those
mama
are the
on
things.
it, seasoning,
Right.
that, because you got to, we like our flavors.
Right. You gotta season it up now. I
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
people
yeah.
all the time, I'm a fan of healthy food, but I'm not a fan of bland food. So I'm not gonna
Okay,
give people anything that's not, seasoned up and that's not, marinated. And we need that. That's part of the motivation to try to stay healthy, because one thing I can say about Black people, and most of my clients are us. If things are not seasoned, I make it a point, and I'll even give them extra, like, here, just pour this on, because I know food is an experience for us,
yeah,
and if we're trying to be healthy, we need it to at least have the taste profile that we need in order to stay motivated to continue eating right. So
right.
we know that's definitely very important, but there are other ways to get the flavor that we need from food without filling it with fat or too much sodium, and things that can cause health issues. There are definitely ways to make it taste how we want it to taste.
Can you share just real quick, maybe a couple of spices that you use in your cooking?
Yeah, I use cumin a lot, cumin seeds. They give things kind of a smoky flavor. Like if you want to kind of feel like something is like just taken off the grill, that type of thing.
Okay,
I put that in a lot of my homemade barbecue sauces. I'll put that in like stews and soups, and
okay,
a lot of the root vegetables, like heartier vegetables like squash, sweet potatoes,
uh-huh.
things like that. a few cumin seeds in there will kind of bring out the sweetness of the root vegetable, but it'll also make it seem kind of smoky. Marjoram is really good. It
Mar-
goes well with the marjoram.
okay.
It's a green herb with little, really tiny leaves. It's kind of in like the um, basil, dill, that
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
family.
Okay.
That goes great with anything that you're doing that has a citrus element to it. Like if you're making like chicken piccata with a lemon sauce, you put margarine in with the lemon and make the sauce out of that, so that you don't have to use a whole bunch of salt
Okay.
to prepare the dish.
Okay.
Um, Curry powder works well.
Okay.
That's turmeric based in most cases, and we know turmeric helps with inflammation. It also adds kind of like a gingery flavor to your
And I started
food.
adding ground turmeric to my green smoothies in the morning, and
Yeah,
it made a
it
huge
helps.
difference.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it definitely helps. So,
Okay.
and all of those things are free of salt. You can use a little bit of salt. Black salt works really well if you want something that has to have a pungent flavor.
Okay.
If used too much, it kind of tastes like scrambled eggs a little bit. So if it's something that you want to have like a more of a breakfast type meal, black salt is good for that. It
Okay.
also helps to draw impurities out of your body. Himalayan pink salt is great for that too. It helps with lowering blood pressure, and it helps to prevent fluid retention. So those kind of salts, they are healthy to use in moderation. So it's best to kind of use a small amount of them in combination with fresh herbs to kind of bring out the flavor of your food and kind of get the taste profile that you want.
Wow, I love that. The taste profile. I never thought about it like that. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Tamiya, for coming in and having this conversation with us. As we prepare to wrap up, I just want to give everybody how they can find you. My partner today is Tamiya King-Troutman. Tamiya King-Troutman is our dialogue partner. She is the founder and owner of the Cool Pink Health and Wellness Consulting and Meal Delivery Program. You can find her at coolpinkhealth.com. That's her website. Cool, Cool, Pink Health.com. Cool Pink. You also can look her up. She has a Facebook group there, Cool Pink Health and Wellness Consulting and Meal Delivery there on Facebook. On IG, you can find her at Tamiya F. King. Tamiya F. King. I'm
Yeah.
so glad we've been talking today about uh, Created to Thrive, Breaking Nutritional Barriers with Tamiya King-Troutman. And it's just been a wonderful conversation. It's so important that as we celebrate our history, part of our celebration includes our foods,
Yes,
right? And so
absolutely.
we want our foods to be, we want to be healthy in the way that we live our lives, and we want to pass down healthy traditions um,
Right.
with our women, with our daughters, with our grandchildren, but in our families, in our community. We want to
Absolutely.
make sure that um, we have a rich, full history that we can pass down that also includes our nutrition.
That's right.
And so I appreciate you coming in the Harmonize Your Life podcast. For those of you who are just tuning in or just finding us, we are the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Tony Alvarado. You can find us at Anchor, on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, and the lightatl.live internet radio. Women, I want you to know you can join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. There, you can get that information on how to join by going to my website at drtonyalvarado.com. I'm specifically asking that you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Those of you that have not, go there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're new to this podcast, if you've been listening and you haven't subscribed, if you've just been listening and haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, go there and subscribe. What happens is when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you help with the analytics of search engine analytics that causes this podcast to come up in search engines. And when people are looking for information on self-care, health, wellness, mental health, all the things that we talk about on this podcast, when they type in those names and those what they call key words,
Keywords.
yeah, those keywords, then this podcast will be one of those things that will come up.
Right.
Type in my name, you can type in harmony, you can type in self-care, mental health. And the more people that subscribe to this YouTube channel, the better the more you increase our ability to come up in search engines. And listen, the internet is running over with
Yes.
information, bad information, negative information.
Yeah.
We need more positive, healthy information for our people.
That's
We
right.
perish because of the lack of knowledge. And this podcast brings qualified, certified information to you with professionals in every arena: health, wellness, finances, fitness, mental health. All these people that come to us, we make sure that they are qualified to speak to us in these areas. And so I appreciate women like Tamiya who've come into the podcast on today to help us. So women, go there, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, go to my website, join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, and come on into this network so that we can continue to bring you, to support you in your self-care, health, and wellness journey. Tamiya, we just have a few minutes left. If you'll just give us one last bit of encouragement as we prepare to sign off.
Well, I would say this. I know that not only as women of color, but as women of faith, we know that our health plays a huge part in our spirituality and the way that we're able to function throughout the day. I know we've all probably heard the verse of 1 Corinthians 6:19, that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And that doesn't just apply to our actions and the ways that we live our life, but that also applies to how we take care of our bodies, because if we want the Holy Spirit to dwell there, we do need to make it as comfortable of a home for him as possible. But I also want to point out that in Jeremiah 33:6, it says that I will bring health and healing to the land and let the people enjoy peace and security. I think it's important to note that when God gets ready to restore something, or when he gets ready to bless his people, one of the first things that he addresses is the health of the people. And it says in that verse that being healthy brings peace and security. And we know that there's a certain peace of mind that comes with being healthy, when you don't have to be bogged down with, oh, I'm sick, I don't know what's wrong with me, or I have this major health issue and I don't know how I'm going to get over it. That takes away your peace of mind. And so we don't only want to be healthy for our bodies, but we know that when we are in our best physical health, that our mental health and our spiritual health will also follow with that.
Wow. That girl, I'm going to have to go and preach that Jeremiah passage. You just gave me something. And here's the thing. It was confirmation. You quoting that Jeremiah passage really was confirmation that when God gets ready to restore a people,
yes,
land, he addresses health and wellness.
Yes.
He addresses our health. And it just confirmed to me that this podcast was birthed in the right time. I had no idea that when I started planning this podcast, I'd said I'm going to release it on the Women's History Month, which is March.
Right.
I had no idea when we launched March 2nd, 2020, that we would be in a global pandemic.
Right.
And so I know that this podcast is right on time, and that God wants to address the health of our nation.
Absolutely.
The health of our people. And thank you for being a part of that. Thank you for helping and being a partner in restoring us to right health.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Listen, continue to hang out with us on this podcast. Continue to share it. Continue to spread the word about Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Tony G. Alvarado. And we'll see you again real soon with another intriguing, informative, inspirational, and motivational conversation. Talk to you soon. Hi, this is Dr. Tony Alvarado, and I want to personally invite you to join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. Join us for fitness motivation, health and wellness information, inspiration, self-care strategies, and ideas for creating harmony in your life. As a certified health and wellness coach, it is one of my greatest honors to support women in their fitness, health, wellness, and self-care goals. Join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, and we will do good on your journey.